Homeless people cook meals over subway grates every single day. Steam rises from underground tunnels. Warm air blows from building vents. Heat radiates off manhole covers. To most people, these are just part of the urban landscape, background noise in the city. But to the 600,000 plus individuals experiencing homelessness on any given night, these heat sources are the difference between a cold meal and a warm one, between survival and going hungry. Right now, someone experiencing homelessness is facing a challenge most of us never think about. How do you cook when you do not have a kitchen? No stove, no electricity, no gas line, no refrigerator, no counter space, nothing. The answer is not what you would expect. Many methods are not about cooking at all. They are about reheating. Warming up food that has already been cooked, because it is safer and requires less fuel than trying to cook something from scratch. And there's another problem: wind. An exposed flame on an open sidewalk loses most of its heat to the air. The food barely warms while the fuel burns away. Wind exposure can cut cooking efficiency in half. There is also mobility. When you are living on the streets, your cooking setup must be portable. It must be quick to assemble and quick to pack up. It cannot leave a trace because that attracts police attention. Food insecurity affects millions of Americans, but for those without housing, there is an additional barrier that housed people never consider: no way to prepare food. So how do they do it? How do people cook or heat food when they have nothing? To understand this, you need to see the heat sources hiding in plain sight all around you. Cities are heat engines. Every building, every subway system, every underground utility generates waste heat that has to go somewhere, and it goes up through grates, vents, and covers that most people walk over without a second thought. Subway grates release warm air from underground. Those metal grates conduct heat from the tunnels below, and the surface stays warm, sometimes warm enough to heat a can of food if you leave it there long enough. Building exhaust vents blow hot air continuously from HVAC systems. Position a can of soup in that airflow, wait 30 minutes, and it will be warm enough to eat. In cities with older infrastructure, places like New York, there are active steam tunnel systems that heat buildings downtown. The Con Edison steam system operates 105 miles of underground pipes, serving 1,800 buildings. Access points to these tunnels release continuous heat. Put your hand near one and you will feel it immediately. Even manhole covers over active utilities conduct heat from below. The metal gets warm, not hot enough to burn you, but warm enough to gradually heat food placed on the surface. This is not cooking in the traditional sense. This is strategic reheating. It uses ambient urban heat that most people never notice to warm up something that has already been cooked. But there are limitations. It is unpredictable. The heat output varies depending on time of day and weather. It is slow. You might wait an hour for a can of beans to get warm, and it only works for reheating, not for cooking anything raw. Still, for someone without any other options, a warm meal from a subway grate is better than eating cold food straight from the can. But what about when you need more than just warmth? What about when you need actual fire? If you want to actually cook something, or heat food faster than a subway grate allows, you need a portable heat source. Small camping stoves are the gold standard. Single-burner propane stoves with small canisters, alcohol burners, folding stoves that pack flat. Some people buy them. Others find them discarded or scavenge them from donations. Fuel is the constant challenge. Propane canisters come from camping supply stores. Denatured alcohol is bought at hardware stores. Wood is gathered from construction sites or parks. Cardboard burns hot and fast. Then there are improvised stoves. An aluminum can, such as a soda can or a beer can, can be converted into an alcohol burner with a few cuts and some fuel. Metal food containers become wood-burning stoves when holes are punched in the side for airflow. Bricks stacked into a U-shape create a windbreak for an open fire. Canned heat. Sterno is designed exactly for this. It is gel fuel in a can that burns clean and hot. You can find it at restaurant supply stores, or sometimes people find partially used cans discarded after catering events. In summer, there is even solar heating. Put food in a black plastic bag, leave it in the sun for a few hours, and the contents warm up. It is slow, but it requires zero fuel. Every method is a trade-off. Fuel availability, portability, how visible it is, because an open flame attracts attention, how fast it cooks. But here is the thing. Having a heat source does not mean anything if the wind steals all the warmth before it reaches your food. Picture this. You have a small camping stove. You have fuel, maybe a half-used propane canister you found. You have a can of soup. You light the stove on an open sidewalk, and most of the heat blows away in the wind. The flame is burning. The fuel is being consumed. But the food is barely getting warm because the heat is dissipating into the air around you. Wind exposure is the enemy of efficient cooking. An exposed flame loses most of its energy to the surrounding air, instead of transferring it to the food. That is where windbreaks come in. Cardboard boxes positioned around the cooking area, shopping carts tipped on their side to block the wind. Building alcoves where the walls create a protected corner. The space under highway overpasses where concrete blocks the breeze. Some people use found materials, cardboard, plywood, tarps, to build temporary walls that channel the heat upward toward the food instead of letting it scatter. There is also insulation below. Cooking directly on cold concrete or asphalt means heat conducts downward into the ground. Placing the stove on cardboard or foam creates a barrier that keeps the heat where you need it. Smaller setups are more efficient. Heating a single can of soup uses a fraction of the fuel compared to trying to cook a full meal in a pot. Lids matter. Covering the pot or can while it heats traps the heat and steam inside. It can cut cooking time in half. Location is everything. Cooking in a protected corner versus an open sidewalk can literally halve your fuel consumption. That means your fuel lasts twice as long. That means you can eat tomorrow, too. So let me ask you, which of these urban heat sources surprised you the most? The subway grates releasing constant heat from below? The building exhaust vents blowing warm air all day? Or the improvised alcohol burners made from aluminum cans? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what shocked you about how people adapt to survive. Because fuel conservation keeps people fed, but there is another factor that determines whether that meal helps you or makes you sick. Food safety. Here is a reality that people who have housing rarely think about. Cooking without a kitchen is not just inconvenient, it is dangerous. Homeless populations face dramatically higher food safety risks. No refrigeration means bacteria grow quickly. Limited access to hand washing means contamination spreads easily. Cooking on contaminated surfaces such as sidewalks, cardboard, or found metal introduces pathogens. That is why the priority is always on pre-cooked food. Reheating canned beans is infinitely safer than trying to cook raw chicken without proper temperature control or clean surfaces. Boiling water is critical when possible. Boiling water for a few minutes kills most pathogens. It is the difference between safe drinking water and a week of debilitating illness. Food storage is nearly impossible. Without refrigeration, anything perishable spoils rapidly. That means daily food acquisition. You can't stock up. You can't meal prep. You eat what you can get today because it won't be safe tomorrow. Canned food is king for survival. It is shelf stable. It is often pre-cooked. It can be eaten cold if absolutely necessary. It is dramatically safer than trying to handle raw ingredients without proper sanitation. Hand hygiene is a constant barrier. Limited access to soap and water means every time you handle food, you are risking contamination. And when you do not have healthcare access, food poisoning is not just unpleasant, it can be life-threatening. Many people choose prepackaged, prepared food over cooking entirely. That removes the food safety risk. The trade-off is nutrition and cost. Processed food lacks the vitamins and minerals that fresh cooking provides, and pre-made food often costs more. But food safety concerns are meaningless if you do not have food in the first place. So where does the food come from? Let's talk about where the food actually comes from when you're living on the streets. Dumpster diving behind grocery stores and restaurants. It's not what people want to do, it's what people have to do. This practice is part of the broader freeganism movement. It involves recovering discarded but edible food. The Good Samaritan Food Donation Act protects food donation when it is done safely. The best time is the end of the business day. That is when stores throw out unsold prepared food. Restaurants discard meals that came back from tables. Grocery stores toss produce that is past the sell-by date even though it is still perfectly edible. Restaurant dumpsters can yield pre-cooked food, condiment packets, disposable utensils, and sometimes entire intact meals that were prepared but never served. Grocery store waste is often absurd. Produce one day past the sell-by date gets thrown out even though it is fine. Damaged packaging makes a product unsellable. Expired shelf items are sometimes still completely safe to eat. Then there are the traditional resources: food banks, soup kitchens, donation centers. Organizations like Food Not Bombs provide free meals without restrictions or questions. These provide essential support, but they are not always accessible. Fuel sources are scavenged too. Cardboard burns hot and fast, easy to find in any city. Discarded propane canisters often have remaining fuel. Wood comes from construction sites or fallen branches in parks. Cooking equipment is whatever you can find. Cans for heating food directly over a flame. Discarded pots and pans, metal utensils, found containers that can hold water or food. And there is community knowledge. Experienced homeless individuals teach newcomers which grocery stores reliably throw out good food, which restaurants do not lock their dumpsters, what times to go, and how to tell if food is still safe. This informal knowledge network is how people survive. But scavenging for every meal is exhausting and degrading. That is where community resources come in when they are available. Community resources exist. The question is, are they accessible? Soup kitchens provide hot meals. That removes the need for street cooking entirely, but they have limited hours, often just lunch and dinner. They have limited capacity, long lines, and sometimes they run out of food. They are in limited locations, and if you are camped miles away, getting there becomes its own challenge. Food banks distribute groceries. That is helpful in theory, but food banks assume you have cooking facilities. A bag of rice, raw vegetables, and frozen chicken does not help if you have no way to cook them. SNAP benefits face similar limitations when recipients lack kitchens. Warming centers during cold weather sometimes allow food heating. They provide temporary kitchen access through local continuum of care programs. But they are seasonal, only open in winter, and again have limited hours. Day shelters occasionally offer kitchen facilities. Clients can use them during operating hours to prepare food. There are barriers, identification requirements, sobriety rules, and limited hours. And if you are miles away, the travel time makes it impractical. Churches and community organizations provide occasional community meals and food distribution programs, but these are sporadic, not daily solutions. Some public facilities have resources, parks with public grills, areas with accessible electrical outlets where people can plug in a hot plate. These are rare and often monitored. Many people choose street cooking over resources for specific reasons. Autonomy, no one telling you when and what you can eat. Avoiding rules, some resources require sobriety or compliance that people cannot or will not meet. Location convenience, cooking where you camp is easier than traveling miles to a resource. Resource unavailability, sometimes the nearest soup kitchen is full or closed. Resources help, but the gaps in the system force people into street cooking every single day. And those gaps exist because of deeper policy failures. Let us be clear about something. People cooking over building exhaust vents and subway grates is not a personal failure. It is a system failure. Homelessness means no kitchen access. What house people take completely for granted, a stove, a refrigerator, a sink, a counter, becomes an impossible luxury. Even shelters often create barriers. Many do not allow food storage. Some prohibit cooking entirely. Most require people to leave during the day, which means taking your meals with you or going hungry until evening. These limitations exist despite federal McKinney-Vento Act funding designed to provide comprehensive services. Food insecurity and homelessness are not separate issues. They are overlapping crises. Lack of stable housing removes the ability to store and prepare food normally. There is also an economic trap. Buying only prepared restaurant food costs 3 to 4 times more than cooking from groceries. When you cannot cook groceries, you are forced into the expensive option, and that makes it even harder to save money to get into housing. The health consequences are severe. Limited cooking means limited nutrition, and reliance on processed food leads to higher rates of diet-related illness, including diabetes, heart disease, and malnutrition. These are policy failures. Insufficient shelter capacity. A lack of low-barrier facilities where people can access kitchens without jumping through hoops. No transitional programs offering kitchen access. Solutions exist. Community kitchens let people prepare food safely. There are dedicated food preparation facilities, and most importantly, housing with kitchen access. But these programs are chronically underfunded. Street cooking should not be a necessity. A system that forces people to heat food over improvised flames and scavenged heat sources has failed fundamentally. Understanding why people cook on streets shows us exactly what real solutions require, and they are simpler than you might think. Think about what we have just covered. People heating soup over building exhaust vents. Creating windbreaks from cardboard to conserve fuel. Learning which subway grates stay warmest. Teaching each other which grocery stores throw out the best food. This is incredible resourcefulness. Problem solving under extreme constraints. The same ingenuity that figures out how to heat food using urban infrastructure would absolutely succeed in stable housing with proper kitchen facilities. Let me reframe something. These are not people too lazy to cook properly. These are people adapting to an impossible situation with intelligence and creativity. Individual cooking methods keep people fed in the short term, and they do work, but they exact a toll. There is a higher risk of food poisoning from contaminated surfaces and limited hygiene. There is nutritional deficiency from reliance on processed and canned food. And there is the daily stress of securing food and fuel. These approaches are proven to work in emergencies, but long-term solutions are better. Housing. First, programs provide stable housing with kitchens. When people have their own kitchen, food preparation becomes normal again. Community kitchen programs give people without housing a place to cook safely and to store food temporarily. There are food preparation facilities designed specifically for people experiencing homelessness. Policymakers need to hear the cost comparison. Providing housing with a kitchen is cheaper than emergency room visits for foodborne illness and malnutrition, cheaper than police enforcement of anti-camping laws, and cheaper than the constant cycle of crisis intervention. Access to cooking facilities is a human dignity issue. The ability to prepare a warm meal is fundamental to well-being. It is not a luxury. It is a basic human need. Practical policy steps are available now. Expand shelter capacity with kitchen access. Fund community kitchen programs. Prioritize rapid rehousing that includes cooking facilities. The street cooking techniques we documented do keep people alive, but they should not have to exist. The permanent solution is not better improvised stoves, it is housing with kitchens. So let me leave you with a question. Knowing these urban cooking methods keep people fed, and knowing that right now someone is heating their dinner over a building exhaust vent or a subway grate, what does that say about our society? What does it say that people need to use infrastructure, waste heat, and scavenged fuel instead of having access to kitchens? Share your thoughts in the comments below because this matters. Survival ingenuity reveals human resilience. It shows what people are capable of when they have to adapt, but it also reveals systemic failure. It shows a society that has failed to provide basic food preparation access to some of its most vulnerable people. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us understand that, we can push for the solutions that actually work. Thanks for watching. The next time you walk past a subway grate or a building exhaust vent, remember, someone might be using that heat to survive.